It's Thursday. You know what that means. Rock and Roll 101 live on the Loudhouse Podcast Network. It's McGee. I'm back with you from the 315. As always, there's Mr. Dino, the lovely leggy and busty Dino Alexander. And of
How
course,
are we doing?
The lovely and talented Miss Beth Simmons. Hello, darling.
Hey, what's happening?
You know, I almost kind of missed you guys while I was gone. Almost. Kind of.
Can't say we felt the same. No.
It was an interesting thing seeing you guys without being on screen with you. It was a little weird.
Yeah, we were able to manage you a little more in the comments. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because at one point I'm sitting there I'm at Hyde's Hot Dogs. This is a legendary hot dog stand in Syracuse, New York.
I know.
And I'm eating a couple of hot dogs and I've got the show on while I'm watching it on my phone. And as you're talking, you mentioned something and I'm answering the question. I'm like, and people are like looking at me and I'm like, sorry, usually I'm on this show. Usually that's my job to know the answer.
Well, we want to thank Mullet for coming on last week with us.
Again.
And we had Xander on from Brace Yourself, and they are opening for Tommy Vex tonight at Encore over on Speedway. So I'm actually going to head out to the show a little later tonight. Check out. I've never seen Brace Yourself, so we'll see what that's all about. So
that's exciting. Well, there are some new CDC guidelines. Have you guys heard about that as of yesterday?
I know that Tucson, you have to wear a mask at all city facilities.
Oh, so they did say that in Tucson now.
City facilities. Okay. So if you're going into the courthouse, if you're going to like the rec center, you have to wear a mask or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're encouraging people to wear masks regardless if you're vaccinated or not indoors. Now,
I was already doing it.
Yeah. On your trip, Mike, did you see a big difference from what it's like in Syracuse and what it's like in Tucson?
I honestly, for all the things that I, talk a little bit of smack about some of the residents of the 520, I was really disappointed in the people in the 315. Like,
oh, really?
There were a few different places where I went into that. When I've got my mask on, these people are looking at me like, you ain't from around here, is your boy? And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this is supposed to be the progressive part of the United States. Like, right. This is where people are, all my friends back home are all vaxxed and, talking about CDC guidelines. Like, I was very surprised by how many people were full-blown YOLO. Like, they just, and
well, maybe they were vaccinated. Maybe they were vaccinated though.
Well,
maybe.
But so the images of New York do not match what we see on the news.
Well, and when I was in New York, I was in the city. It was a complete 180 from what you get here in town in the Dirty T. It was because most people are commuting, so you have to have a mask. You can't like run down to your car and go get your mask every time you need it or whatever. So, people are going from place to place, so they need to have a mask on them. But even on all public transportation, there are like subways and trains and stuff, people are wearing masks. I would say it's probably about 80 to 85% compliant. There's some people that have it pulled down on their chin or whatever, but for the most part, people were and then, but like in like a deli or, like a bodega or whatever, yeah, you'd be in there, but there wasn't that many people. But, then those kind of places, those people maybe didn't have them on, or there'd still be like 50%, maybe 40%.
Yeah, it was weird. And it was weird, like in the airport in Chicago, how many people were just not wearing their mask, even though they're supposed to be. So needless to say, old McGee here was wearing a mask pretty much from the time he walked into the airport till the time he walked out of the last airport.
Right.
So
I thought the airport was pretty compliant too. I mean, there was a couple people, but nothing to write home about. I mean, you sometimes you just got to take it off too. You're eating whatever. So, you got kids.
It's just weird that, it just seemed like people without masks stick out more now than ever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It just, they stick out like a sore thumb. So I don't know. I'm still alive. Hopefully I won't be. I'll let you know in 14 days how I feel.
Right. As you self So what do they call it?
Self-quarantine.
Self-quarantine. I forgot the word already. I almost forgot it. It'd been so long since we had to quarantine, and now we're kind of maybe heading back that way. Hopefully not.
Well, it's just one of those things. It's the common sense. And the sad part is and I had this conversation a couple of times with some friends back home. I'm like, we've gotten to the point where no matter what news channel you turn on, you really can't trust anything anymore. Right. They've made it to a point where we trust nothing. It's well, you get the one extreme or the other. Either you believe everything that's being spoon-fed to you, or you don't believe anything that anybody says anymore. It's right. There's no in between, and it's
I've never believed you for a minute. I've never believed you for a minute. So,
but I ain't never lied to you, sucker. I've been telling you the truth. I've been dropping the knowledge since day one.
The truth is
the truth.
Oh, so bummer week in rock and roll, huh?
Man, yeah.
The metal church guy. That started the week off.
The month of July has sucked for rock and roll. Period.
Sure.
It has.
Just been like Mike Portnoy put up a list, and there was like 10 people that have died in July that were very active musicians, and right. It's sad, but unfortunately, yesterday was one of the bigger hits that we've taken in Dusty Hill from ZZ Top. That was, sure. It's one of those things that we thought they were 100 years old, 35 years ago. Right. With the beards down to their belly buttons, they look like old men from the beginning. So,
yeah, they're like those actors that you see on a TV show or in the movies. Those like secondary actors and like character actors is what they call them, right? And they're all like they've always been 45 years old, no matter if they were 25 or if they were 59. Well, it didn't
it's
matter.
Funny, like Wilford Brimley.
Yeah,
that dude was way younger than any of us knew he was.
No, but he looked like he was 59.
He looked like he was 1,000.
Yeah.
He looked old as dirt. It's like he was like 40 when he was in Cocoon. Like that's messed up, man.
Yeah.
It is crazy to think that he's the same age as Matt Damon. And look at Matt Damon, in Cocoon, like 45, right? Wilford Brimley, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And Matt Damon's 45, and look at him. He looks super young compared to Wilford.
I just saw a movie with Matt Damon. He has a very small cameo. Do you guys have HBO Max?
Oh, yeah.
No Sudden Move. Check it out. New Steven Soderbergh movie. Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, and a cast of thousands.
It's in the queue.
Yeah,
it's
check it out.
Queue.
Good movie. But Matt Damon looked like he was playing an older Matt Damon, but still, doesn't look Wilford Brimley like at all.
That's so weird. I mean, do you think people just age differently back then? That's what it has to be, right?
Well, I mean, hold on, because like my mom started going gray by the time she was like 35. Mm-hmm. And like now it's funny because now at 75, people ask her where does she get her hair frosted? Because her hair has gone beyond white to full on platinum. So she gets these like platinum streaks in her hair because she lost and like the texture is amazing. Like I'm jealous of my mom's hair because it's like it just falls into place. She can get hit in a wind tunnel and then shake it out and it'll go right back to where it was. And I'm like, that's just, I wake up looking like Kramer on top. I look like
Carrot So then she doesn't have issues with curly hair like us, huh?
No, she's got pin straight hair. She's got pin straight. And believe me, being back in New York with humidity, yeah, the Jufro was in full effect. It was crazy. I am of Semitic people. I am of Semitic people. Okay, Arabs and Jews, we're all Semitic people. All right,
that is true.
Don't everybody all get wound up.
All right. But I was back east too, and my son didn't. I usually have a hairdryer for this thing, and no hairdryer, so I was air drying every day, and it was just super. It was bad.
It gives you extra body when you have that. Come on.
Oh God.
Yeah. Extra body.
I'll say this though, we did have some good weather in New York, and it was nice because I got to go to my old summer camp that I went to as a camper and then worked at as a counselor. Like our family is like a legacy there. And so my sister's kids were going for the week. And I just said, well, I kind of want to see the old man. The director that's there now has been there for 40 years, like well over. So I just went down, and as soon as I get there, of course, they go, what the hell did I just do to deserve you here today? And I'm like, nice to see you too, you cranky old bastard. Good to see nothing's changed. And, and then hung out. A friend of mine was staying in a cabin, I went up the road from camp and then right back down the road to a different road right next to it to where his camp was. So we sat out on the lake all day, and it was fun. So shout out to Wendy LeGros and Fred Stanley. It was a hell of a time hanging out with you guys, setting fire to the lake and all that other good stuff,
Oh, that sounds nice, man. That sounds so
it was
good.
Great. Actually, it was funny because like when I got home last night, Terry kind of looked at me when I first got out of the shower, and she's like, you did get some sun. Like my chest had gotten a little sunburned. I got kissed, as we call it. I got kissed.
Mm-hmm.
So
you don't think of New York as a place to go get a body tan there? No.
Go figure. But It was just it was like 85 degrees. We're sitting out on the lake. I actually even had a beer. It was I went crazy.
Wow.
So
alert the authorities.
It was a fun time. It wasn't that bad, but way more low key than any other trip I've ever had going home.
Yeah, because the other ones had more beers.
More beers, and it's usually just like I'm on a tear. But with my friends are getting old, their kids are getting older, and there's still a pandemic out there. So not as many people willing to come out, and not as many venues to be able to sit outside. That's the big thing.
It's interesting you mentioned that, though. Are you guys nervous that things are going to shut down again?
I mean, not as long as things go back to the way they were 6 months ago or a year ago when we had to shut down. I wouldn't mind getting an extra couple $100 back.
I don't think we're going to shut down like we were before. I think it's just going to be, it's going to be masks again, unfortunately. And I think it might be bad for things like concerts and, big gatherings. Like there'll be no more like over 100 people, 200 people type things. I think that's probably what's coming next if it continues down this path. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. But I think that if it continues to get worse, I don't think anybody wants to shut down the economy necessarily. I don't think people want to shut down restaurants again and do all that. So I think those things, as long as people are masking and, have their masks on when they're not eating and, all that, when their food's gone, they're, whatever. I think that part probably be fine. But I think that there's, any kind of big gatherings, maybe things like gyms might go away. I don't know, but I don't think like movie theaters, those kind of things. I don't think you're going to have any, I don't think regular business is going to be affected like that. So
we'll see. I'm fine either way. I noticed I was still a little bit jumpy whenever anybody was a little too close, because like falling asleep on the airplane, and all of a sudden the flight attendant just even brushed my arm, and I'm like flinching. Like it's just like it's weird. I'm the guy that usually was always the first thing I do when I see people is give them a hug. And then went to like, hey, it's good to see you. High five from across the room. So it's just a little weird now that all of a sudden, like somebody's close enough in my proximity again that they can just brush up against me.
I just want to mention, so, the other day I had to talk to Royal Caribbean and confirm everything and give them like my vaccination information, all that. And I said, are you sure this cruise is still going to happen? Because even if you're vaccinated, you can still spread it to other vaccinated people, and you can still get it being vaccinated. And that was on Tuesday when it initially came out from the CDC. And obviously the Royal Caribbean member had no clue about the new guidelines or the new information that was released. And she's like, I think it's still going to happen. That was her information. And I'm like, I feel like I should just cancel now. I mean, I don't foresee it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think, like, I don't know, getting in a tube with everybody going across country. I've done it a couple times now. It's not ideal, but it's very short. When you're on a boat, you're on there for days with these people. So I think that probably boat travel, not the best. I think even with whatever, is coming down the line, I don't think, travel is going to be restricted again. I think, as long as everybody's compliant with all the stuff on the airplanes and in the airports, I think we'll be okay. But
in all honesty, I almost would have been happier instead of flying, because I hate flying. I got stuck in a middle seat, and I said, just so you know, I'm a very nervous flyer, so don't jump, don't be scared if I grab your hands, because I'm a white knuckler,
right.
know. But I almost would have preferred driving. It wouldn't, the price point would not have been all that much different.
It's just in terms of time.
It just would have been a 2-day trip instead of a 6-hour trip. And
right.
Believe me, it was I was supposed to fly out on Tuesday, and by 10 o'clock, my flight had been canceled, rescheduled for Wednesday, delayed, and canceled again.
Mm-hmm.
So and the first one I couldn't get on because I apparently the new guidelines of when you have to be at the airport, they have a certain cutoff. If you haven't gone through TSA and are getting checked in, if you're not there within, they'll close it early. So 5 minutes before your flight, you can't OJ it all the way up, So it was.
Does that mean kill people on the way?
Yes. That's exactly what I thought. Sorry, it's funny. I don't think anybody under the age of roughly around 40 gets the joke of the O.J. Simpson commercial with him leapfrogging over benches in an airport, to get to his gate.
I thought you meant just speeding in the white Bronco.
No. Because I got stuck in line for my boarding passes for almost a half an hour, and so by the time I got up to the kiosk, I couldn't even get on my flight. So they rescheduled me to Wednesday, and I was just like, "This is some bullshit, man." And so I was supposed to get in on Tuesday. I'm lucky I got in on Thursday. So it was just, everything about this week was stressful to begin with, and it just made it worse. And so I don't know. I ain't going nowhere for a while.
Well, we're glad.
I'm happy to be home.
We're glad you made it back in one piece.
Right.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, let's start our rock and roll 101 here. Like we were talking earlier, tough week in rock and roll. We lost the singer from Metal Church. We lost Jordy Jorgensen from Slipknot.
Yeah, that was a shocker too.
Yeah. I mean, he had been ill. He had some type of rare, multiple sclerosis type disease. That's what had led him not to be in Slipknot anymore. But he was managing that. I guess he had had bouts where he had done really well, and he was able to do some side projects and all that kind of stuff. So he was kind of up and down, but apparently he was just an alcoholic on top of all of that. So that probably didn't, help his recovery or maintenance of that disease.
Well, so are they saying that it was cirrhosis of the liver?
They don't know. A lot of people are not liking that TMZ put out the 911 call. From his ex-girlfriend, who I guess he lived in the house that, I don't know if she owned it or whatever. She's like, I take care of everything. She's telling the 911, I go, this is my house, or this is, I have the motion sensors at my computer. I take care of all the bills and all that kind of stuff. But I just walked in, and there's this funky smell coming, and no one has been by, no one else. Yeah. And so she's talking to the person. She didn't go into the house. That's what she was saying.
So how long had she not been in the house?
It'd been a couple days since he had been heard from, and so his parents, I guess, she was saying that she had called, to go, but since the house was locked up, and whatever, there was no signs of anything, the police couldn't do anything. So I don't
understand how that's even possible. As a girlfriend, you talk to your
she's an ex-girlfriend.
She's the
ex-girlfriend. She was managing. Yeah, there's
something else that doesn't sound right, because I mean, from being a former firefighter, we had to do status checks on a regular basis.
Right.
So I don't, that's why I don't understand why the police couldn't do anything. They can, if you say, I have fear that someone has been injured or died, or that they might die, they have every right to do a status check and be able to go in for the well-being, to a point where they can knock and so on.
Apparently they didn't. So he had been in there at least a day or two. And, she said, she came in and she's like, she was making the call from the garage, she said. And,
is it possible that he just overconsumed alcohol and maybe some other things, and then
who knows? It could have been part of his other health ailments. I mean, it's unclear at this point. That's what
they
it
haven't
is.
released it.
They haven't released it. So,
Well,
but
you know
nonetheless,
what?
he passed away. But it's not really.
That's the
important.
thing, is that like everybody, and it's something that unfortunately I heard way too many times over the last week, is how did he die? It doesn't matter. In all honesty,
Well,
it
actually,
really doesn't matter unless it was.
Well, here's the thing. It does, like, I gotta be honest with you. When I saw that this young man died, he's in his early 40s in my mind. Like, people don't die just, it's like the 33-year-old that died of COVID who was vaccinated yesterday. And it's like, how did these, like, at least we know it was COVID that, led to her death. But with people that are so young, you have to wonder,
I understand, but at the same time, it's not always necessarily anybody else's business.
Right.
Like Joey Jordanson was 46. My friend that passed away, he was 46. Yeah. He was way too young to have passed away, but at the same time, it happened. What are you going to do? Knowing is never going to bring him back. So unless it's something that should be public knowledge because of public safety.
Yeah. Like there's a killer on the loose. Yeah.
No, not even that. If it's a pandemic, it's a plague, then yes, you should know. Okay, so-and-so had SARS or diphtheria or whatever the hell it was. If it can be passed along to other people, that's when it should be public knowledge. Otherwise,
I think it's a scary thing because initially when I read the article about it, it said he passed away in his sleep. And so when you read something like that, you think, I've read many articles this past year, people just passing away in their sleep that are super young. And you think, this isn't normal. What is going on? There's got to be something underlying in all these people, because if that's the case, we could go to sleep today and not come back tomorrow. It's
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Honestly, that's the way I'd want to go. If I can die in my sleep without feeling everything, without knowing what the hell's without having that preconceived, oh my God, I'm dying. That's exactly how I want to go. And the fact is that, like, I didn't think I was going to live this long. The way I looked at it, I was like, I'm 10 years past where I thought I was.
You thought you were going to be part of the 27 club?
Well, I mean, that was the goal, was to be a famous rock star and dead by 27. I make that joke all the time, but because of family history, I actually, my father was only 36. I expected that 36 was going to be about my cutoff, which is why I lived a very interesting life in my younger years. Yeah. And, here I am. I'm going to be 46 in 6 months. Like, okay. So at this point, I'm like, whatever. If I'm lucky enough to go in my sleep, then I'll be happy. That'll be fine.
All right, so Jordy from Slipknot, everybody was kind of upset about that. You saw a lot of that on Facebook. And then yesterday, out of nowhere, Dusty Hill from ZZ Top passed away. And ZZ Top, I mean, they're that band that they were kind of, they never changed, even though they had been getting up there in years. Like they're in their 70s now.
72.
72.
They're all 72, I think.
Yeah,
I
think
71.
Frank Beard's like 1 year younger,
1 year younger,
1 year old or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, they were kind of stuck in an age for me. Like they were the same age today than they were in the 80s when they were popular. They kind of like never aged. We were making the joke before we started the live stream today that they're kind of like the Wilford Brimley of rock and roll. They've been the same age forever. Wilford Brimley in Cocoon looked the same as he did when he, just last week or whatever. He's the same, Is Wilford Brimley still alive, or did
I think he passed away, but ironically not from the diabetes.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him.
Oh.
I want to say he passed away like maybe 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years. Okay, so I'm not crazy in thinking that he was still around, but he still looked the same 2 years ago than he did back in 1984. Right. Same with Dusty Hill.
But with Dusty, that hit really hard because I remember reading last week that he wasn't performing at a show. And I'm thinking, that's weird. This has got to be pretty serious if he's not performing. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember posting that article on my Facebook account thinking, well, hopefully he'll be back, up and running again soon. And then, I mean, like he had a hip issue. We all know that. And I think to myself, a hip issue that led to this, how is that possible? And then, well, you mentioned you think it might have been a blood clot, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's because, sometimes you'll get it like a blood clot. The only sign that you get is feeling like an ache or a pain in that area. And, and you got to remember your femoral artery is up near your hip area. So
Dr. McGee here.
Well, it's stuff that I've experienced. Trust me,
right.
I've had a cardiac catheterization, and they went through the femoral artery, and that's where I had a blockage.
But then at that point, when they put you on blood thinners, if they thought there's a blockage?
Well, if they caught it, that's the thing. But I mean, think about it. Like the reason why I went and got checked out, I was 35 when that happened. So the reason why I went and got checked out, I might have even been younger than that now that I think about it, because the kids were only maybe like 2 and 4. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I went was because we had all been sick the week before, because it was during the swine flu epidemic.
Yeah.
So me and the kids all got sick. And then I woke up fine on Friday. And then Saturday I had pain in my shoulders and in my elbows. So I was like, go to the hospital. If I hadn't felt that pain in my shoulders and elbows, I wouldn't have gone, because other than that, it was just a dull ache from having been sick all week.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't know what's going on.
It's a good thing you did that. It's a really good thing.
Well, and the ex was like, come on, you're too young to be thinking like that. And I'm like, yeah,
you can get
I'm 2 years younger than what my father
age,
was when he died. So, and my cousin, God rest his soul, was only 27. So it's one of those things. And that's a constant reminder, so.
But, I don't know if you read what Billy Gibbons had said. Did you guys read this today? Tell me.
I read some other articles surrounding this about continuing on.
Yeah. So Billy Gibbons said, quote unquote, as Dusty said upon his departure, let the show go on. And with respect, we'll do well to get beyond this and honor his wishes. And I think to myself, and actually a listener posted under this on my post, so then they knew that he wasn't going to make it. And it makes you wonder, did they know? Because I mean,
I'm sure they had a feeling, or it was a possibility. And these guys have been living in each other's pockets for the last 50 years. They're one of the, if not one of the only bands to be all original members. Now, there were some early members, before they actually, had their first album out. But they, for the most part, they are the original members from the very first major release. And so they knew that they probably knew that Dusty had health issues. I mean, he had some crazy ass stories too. He dislocated his shoulder once on stage. I guess he shot himself in the stomach. Pulling a gun out of a boot. Now that's not rock and roll. That's totally ZZ Top right there. I could totally see that happening. So I mean, that's the guy,
very, very Texas rock and roll right there. Shooting yourself from pulling a gun out of your boot.
Well, Keith Richards did that too, and he's not from Texas, but he didn't he didn't put it into his stomach, and he didn't hurt himself. It just went up in the air. But came close.
Came close. But so I mean, they probably knew that, all these guys, I'm sure, have their particular health issues. And I'm sure a band as close as these guys, they have it all on the table. I'm sure during, their downtime or non-touring times or non-recording times, they have business meetings, and they say, and I'm sure they've been with lawyers that said,
well, and they hang out and they do barbecues and
right. Yeah. But I'm sure that, they've had that discussion where, hey, if Billy doesn't make it, what are we going to do? If Dusty doesn't make it, if Frank doesn't, how are we going to do? They've all had that discussion, because there's going to be 2 other guys left in the lurch.
I almost wonder if they're just finishing out what they had started, because they had made contractual obligations to Las Vegas during that Vegas residency, to doing a European tour, to finishing out the US tour. So I almost wonder if they're just finishing out their obligations and then calling it a day after that.
Well, and Beth, you and I have had this discussion when we talked about one of the other, we brought this subject up not too long ago, which is why I found it really kind of ironic that it was Dusty of all people that happened recently. But they don't seem like the type of bands that would go on as a full-blown thing without the original members like that. I think it was when we were talking about
because of their friendship, because they're so close.
They've been together because they were in like high school together, like they were high school buddies. And so, you know, I could agree with you 100%. We've got all these dates that are already booked. We're going to bring in somebody to play bass for this tour, whatever, and get that done. But we're probably never going to put out another album. We're never going to do another tour. This is it. And, you know, so
I think that's exactly what they're doing.
That would be the most logical thing, because I couldn't imagine going on without my, you know, in that situation. Like, that was one that I truly, when we were talking about it, I was like, I can't see them continuing on as ZZ Top without all three original members, you know.
I mean, like, I can't imagine wanting to do that after your best friend. I couldn't. I don't. Right. I mean, I'd be on autopilot from there on out just to get through it.
Well, and that's the thing, is that, like, imagine every time Billy looks to his right, that guy's not there. That's not Dusty. It, you know, like, I couldn't imagine that. Or the same thing with Frank being behind the kit and just looking over, and that's not Dusty anymore.
And
you know, it would be a daily heartbreak for me. It would just be a constant open wound that is just constantly getting picked at every single night of a tour. I couldn't imagine doing that.
I hate to say it though, like, Dusty seemed very healthy compared. Well, okay, Frank's looks the healthiest, followed by Dusty, and then Billy. Like, I always thought Dusty was healthier than Billy Gibbons. Didn't you guys agree?
Billy looks like, you know, at least 25% of his weight is his beard. You know, like, he's always been a skinny, because like they're huge, like, WWE fans. Every time they're in Texas, you know, you see them in the front row at a WWE show. And it is one of those things that when you see them, like, when you have a point of view of like, okay, I've been to a wrestling show, so I've had Triple H walk past me. I know how tall he is compared to me, how wide he is compared to me. Now I'm looking at Billy Gibbons standing next to Triple H, and I'm like, wow, Billy Gibbons is really skinny, because, like, you know, it's like he's that much smaller. Yes. So, you know, it's kind of funny. But I mean, like, again, they're all 70-year-olds don't look like 40-year-olds. It's very rare.
I mean, they look great for their age, I thought, you know, like, I didn't think they were in their 70s. Yeah.
So Elwood, the guitar tech, is the guy that has taken Dusty's place on bass, at least for the one show. They were supposed to have a show, I believe, tonight, and it's been canceled or postponed, but they're planning on resuming the tour here soon. So, I think that they are going to continue. I don't believe they're doing another album. I think that's out of the question, but I think they could probably continue as long as Billy and Frank want to continue, really.
So you do foresee that the guitar tech will continue on? They won't hire someone outside of the band?
I don't think so. I think that, I guess he's been a long time guitar tech. So I think he's kind of part of the ZZ Top, you know, family. Yeah. So, you know,
from within.
Yeah.
You know, if you got to do it, like, I mean, we've seen guitar techs that have come in a pinch and saved the day. I mean, James Hetfield's guitar tech played guitar for Metallica when he got blowed up.
And the drum tech for Aerosmith took over when they had that issue with
Joey
Kramer. Yes.
Yeah. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they'll just continue on with this guy. And I think that it's you know, for the ZZ Top people that wanted to see him one last time, obviously it's unfortunate that they were not going to be able to see the full ZZ Top, but I think this is as close as you're going to get. Yeah. And if you had tickets, you're probably not going to want to
give them up, because this is probably going to be the last time you ever get to see him. Yeah, I don't know if you heard, because you kind of dropped off the screen, so I don't know if you were listening when Beth and I were talking. I said I can't really foresee them doing much more than what they've already booked,
committed to,
or maybe at most, to extend off of what Dino said, that maybe they would do a farewell tribute to Dusty tour, where they do one more round, so anybody that never got to see them would get to one last time.
I can't even see that. I think they'll just finish out.
I think they could do. What they could do is that at that point, like, have guest basis, like on this leg you're gonna have Billy Sheehan, or this leg you're gonna have Rudy Sarzo, or these shows,
or just have one major show like in Las Vegas as a goodbye to
like they can have a goodbye residency or something like that. That might be something too, where people will travel for it. I think that, or in Texas, they got to do it in Texas, right? So
true.
Yeah. So
a goodbye tour of Texas, then we could drive to El Paso.
Right. They're gonna do all the El Paso, San Antonio, Abilene.
It'll be like the old territory wrestling loop. It'll be like Dallas, San Antonio, El Paso. We're gonna go do the Blanchards. We're gonna do the Guerreros. We're gonna do the Von Erichs. That's pretty much the tour that they're gonna do. They'll play the Sportatorium in Dallas.
The Sportatorium.
It's pretty much a parking lot at this place. I think they tore the building down.
It's like the schools that have the Kappa Gymatorium. It's all one. All right. So, we talk about ZZ Top being together, for 50 years or so. Their first album came out in 1970. Mm-hmm. So it was actually ironically called ZZ Top's first album. So
clever name.
Yeah, really. They really nailed it on that one. But they really didn't get going until the next album, which was Rio Grande Mud. Francine was
wouldn't you say a lot of their success branches off from their music videos that played on MTV that really got people into them?
Well, I think that they built up that's what put them over the top. I think people knew who ZZ Top were, or at least they had a following of people that knew who ZZ Top were. In fact, if you go on YouTube, and I put a video up yesterday, RIP Dusty Hill, from a show in 1980 that aired on MTV. And it's awesome. I mean, they have so much like energy, and it's great. The back and forth between Billy and Dusty is fantastic. And it's really electric, but it was before they really like kind of honed in on the whole, walking and step. I mean, they did a little bit of it, but it wasn't like the whole thing. They didn't have the dusters on. They didn't have the, all that, but they had the beards. They had some kind of weird hats, but they didn't do the full on ZZ Top Eliminator from then on stuff. But you could see that there were bits and pieces of it, but they were a lot more mobile on stage. They were jumping around and running all over the stage. And
that's kind of a good point, because unfortunately it got to a point where, especially in Syracuse, because we are the center of New York State. So that's where our state fair is, that it was almost a given that you were going to be able to go see ZZ Top for free, because they would usually play the free stage, which sometimes is a bigger crowd than what you're going to get at the grandstand, where you have to pay an admission. Why? Because only like 10,000 people can fit into the grandstand. But when you have the wide open, you've got everybody. And I'm saying like everybody, when you start hearing that, people just come out of the woodwork and they just stop what they're doing. And you would see, everybody would just be standing, the roadways, the pathways got people in them, but it also makes you like take them for granted, because it was like, I'm not going to see. I saw ZZ Top the last time they played Chevy Court.
I think it's because it felt like they would continue on forever, and that's what all the guys said. We'll play for till the bitter end. They said they won't retire. And
we're hitting the bitter end. It's just one of those things that because they've been so timeless and ageless, that you don't realize that we're getting close to the end. You look at guys like, say, for example, Brian May, Jimmy Page, that have let themselves go white, or you see the frailty in their frame, that you go, if I get a chance to see them, I have to see them, because this may be the last time.
It. Yeah.
With ZZ Top, you didn't see anything. You saw a hat, glasses, and a beard with a leather jacket or a duster and a guitar in front of them. So you can't even tell how old they are. Not to mention the music. It's not one of those things where the music was so complex that you can hear the subtle differences in how fast they're playing or how slow or whatever.
Yeah, there was really they weren't like nuanced singers by any stretch of the imagination. Right. So you could say, oh, well, he sounds like he's really losing the vocal ability. They never really had it to begin with. So it wasn't part of their thing. Yeah.
They never stopped being quintessentially ZZ Top because they've been at this level and just have gone the road in that car for decades, as opposed to like those singers that, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world, and all they can do is their voice just gets worse and worse and worse.
Right.
You know, or the thrash band that can't play as fast anymore, so they slow down. You know, they were always that good blues-based, groovy, shake your ass rock and roll. Right. And so,
and right from the beginning
never
too.
Stops.
Well, yeah. I think the hardship on this though is you know, with other bands and Sickness, you kind of like see the writing on the wall. Like Quiet Riot, we all knew that Frankie Banali was going for cancer treatment. We were all preparing for that. But like this just was out of nowhere. So it makes it so much harder. And
well, they were also not like in the limelight, I guess, necessarily as, you know, I mean, they were ZZ Top. I mean, we know who they are maybe because we're in the rock in the rock scene or whatever. We're kind of zeroed in on it. But even with that, they're kind of just known as ZZ Top. I mean, people know who Dusty Hill is, people know who Billy Gibbons is, but like you don't see TMZ articles unless someone's dying about them. They were never in the tabloids. It's not even like an Eddie Van Halen. It was like when Eddie Van Halen was getting ready to pass away there, it was like a 2-year thing. Is Eddie dying? He's flying in Germany, you know, but he was a celebrity on top of being a rock star. So that's a little bit different. Same thing, even with like you're talking about Quiet Riot, not Frankie Banali, but Kevin Dubrow. He was an out of left field too, but that was more to do with drugs. It was cocaine, I think, that he ended up passing away from, had an overdose. Vinnie Paul, you know, again, real quick, you know, boom, out of here. But they were also somewhat celebrities. They were well known, and they were always out in the public eye.
But even with, think about the Black Sabbath tour, their final tour, people were lining up to buy those tickets because they knew that Tony Iommi was getting cancer treatment, and they knew this is it, regardless, you know, like, because a lot of bands say, oh, this is the final tour, but everyone knew Tony Iommi had, you know, cancer pretty badly, and luckily he's in remission at this point. But I mean, that was a point where you had the time to get the ticket and know this is it. With ZZ Top, you didn't really have that time.
Yeah, well, they, like I said, they really didn't let that be known to the fans or to the public. So again, that was more common knowledge. Oh, Tony Iommi, there was a press release. Tony Iommi is in, you know, he's getting cancer treatment, you know, that kind of thing. So
and he was
even with Ozzy now, you know, Ozzy, he has this whatever Parkinson's type disease.
Parkin 2 is what it's called. Yeah.
So yeah, now if you do get to see Ozzy, you're going to go, okay, well, this could be it. I better do it.
But, you know, with what Ozzy's dealing with, actually, he and Sharon have been donating a lot to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So, you know, hopefully eventually they figure out, you know, some sort of cure or treatment that's going to help.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously there are things that have been promising that can help delay some of the symptoms and stuff. But I think ultimately it ends. But I think that there is still windows where people can live a more normal life, and especially if they're celebrities, be able to practice their craft and still perform. So in that respect, hopefully, you know, that in Ozzy's situation, that will be the case. But as of right now, as far as talking about ZZ Top, it was out of left field, but it's, again, not surprising. Like, wow, Dusty Hill is 72. Well, I think
I still say he's young. 72 is young. Like, he should have made it to 105. That's what I'm hoping for. You know?
Well, I mean, even people like that Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul. He had a heart attack or heart-related issue recently. He was making the latest season of Better Call Saul, and they had a
is that the guy that's Saul?
Yeah, it's the spinoff from Breaking Bad. He plays
so
Saul.
It's Saul who had a heart attack. Is he okay?
He's resting recovery comfortably. He's in stable condition, but there's
and
it's up in the air.
He's young too. How old is he?
He's in his mid-40s. Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, he's got to be in his mid-50s.
Is he? Let's look.
Yeah.
Because he claims to be in his mid-40s for TV.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get back to because Beth jumped into it pretty quick.
58. That's 58. Yeah.
58.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I loved about ZZ Top, because that's what we are here for today, is to actually talk about ZZ Top.
Maybe
the MTV era of ZZ Top. I mean, that's what made them legendary. Right. Because out of that whole era of what we consider classic rock bands, they were the ones that really did a great job of using the music video as the ultimate promotion tool.
Yeah.
And iconic with the old, the old 32 Ford, the red 32 Ford with the girls, and and of course the fur covered guitars, spinning them. Like, it was funny. One of my Facebook friends, for his little tribute to Dusty, it was the scene from King of the Hill where he's got Bobby with his arms straight up like that, and he spins Bobby like the guitar. So it's like they've become part of pop culture. They are iconic Americana in the sense that, like, if you see that 32 Ford, if you can't nail what year and what make it is, you go, oh, it's the ZZ Top car. You see old hot rods from the 30s, and especially in a place like Tucson, you see that kind of stuff quite a bit in the summertime, especially. That you're like, oh, that dude's got like a ZZ Top car. It's become iconic, and I mean, really set a standard for up and coming rock bands. That, like, hey man, if the old bearded guys are making cool ass videos, you better think of something really awesome.
Right.
And so it was great. Like, I mean, you had hot chicks, cool licks, and a fast machine.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also the good thing about the ZZ Top success, or the mega success of ZZ Top, is that when they did hit it with the Eliminator album, they had all the stuff from the last 10 years behind it. So not only were you getting the new fans that were like into the videos, into the girls, into the cars, whatever on MTV, you still had beer drinkers and Hellraisers. You had LaGrange, you had, cheap sunglasses, the Tube Snake Boogie, Pearl Necklace. So there was already, if you went to a ZZ Top show and you only were going because you heard Sharp Dressed Man or Legs, when you got to the show, you're like, oh yeah, I know Tube Snake Boogie. Oh, I know Tush.
Every song.
Yeah, I know all these songs. Yeah. So, I mean, that was the cool thing about it. That's what really put them over the top.
They're in that iconic status where there's certain bands. Like, I always make the joke. Everybody who likes Steve Miller Band, they don't own all of his albums. They own his greatest hits. Right. Yeah. Same thing with Journey. Same thing with Boston. Same thing.
Eagles.
Don't
even get started, Beth. Let me finish my damn sentence.
Eagles.
But the Eagles, like, where the greatest hits is truly enough to be epic, that people don't even think about going and getting. So like, even the casual fan, like, I'm not necessarily a big, huge ZZ Top fan, but I have ZZ Top's greatest hits. I've got every song that I would ever need to play or want to sing along to or know the words to. And it's also, there's very few bands like that, but there's that handful from that era where that is exactly how our generation and younger are going to remember them, is off their greatest hits.
All right, I'm looking at the discography right now. Here's the awesome thing. They put out their first best of in 1977. So there was already, so the best of
ZZ Top. And that's before the iconic hits.
Yeah. Exactly. Then the next then they had one called Six Pack. And then they had one, the greatest hits, which is at 92. And then they had some other 2004 Rancho Texicano, the very best of ZZ Top. The very baddest in 2014. And then in 2019, Going 50. So,
and I mean, but here's the thing, like, even I got a kick out of it because, when in the downloading days, I partook occasionally, and and so, like, when you go get a whole discography, Pirate Bay, You get a whole discography of something, and you end up seeing certain bands that have like 4 greatest hits albums, and there's only like one new song or a live version of something. Like it got to a point where Aerosmith was that band. And you know, you have Journey where like, or Queen's a great example where they have 2 greatest hits albums, and it just happens to be that there's something slightly different on the second one than was on the first.
Right.
And it was like, you know, or it's you got the very best, and then you've got the essential, you know, or so it's kind of neat that those bands are the ones that still their greatest hits always sell better than the back catalog, because even if it's only got one new song, it's still one more song than what everybody else already has.
Right.
So it's just kind of funny that bands at certain level, like from that era, their greatest hits are always going to be better sellers than the back catalog.
Yeah, anymore. Yeah,
right,
for sure.
And I mean, you'll get those, especially with the resurgence of vinyl and stuff like that, that you'll get true collectors that love that band that will go and buy the back catalog as collector's items. You know, they may not even put that record on because it is from 1975. You know, so now it's a piece of history, and you don't want to get it ruined. But there's nothing wrong with it either, because these are the bands that we want to hear the greatest hits. When we go to the show, we need to hear the greatest hits. We don't need that one new song. We need.
We'll allow the one new song. We'll allow one new song, maybe 2. But if you go more than 3, we don't need it.
We don't need it the way we need to hear Tush and LaGrange and, you know, Just Got Paid. You know, like that's
Jesus
for
left
me what
Chicago.
Yep.
Waiting on the bus all day.
Really quick though, Jeffrey posted on our page that, let me go back to it. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them, especially your children, every day. And I think that's what the situation has really brought us to, is honestly, it makes us reflect on the fact that, you know, it could be like, you could be here today, gone tomorrow at any age. That's what we're really noticing nowadays.
Well, and I mean, I just went home and saw most of my family for the first time in 3 years, including my mom. I haven't seen my mom in 3 years. It was that was a rough run for me. I've never gone that long without seeing.
I love you, Mom.
I do. I love you, Mom. And I actually had a really awesome hang with her most of the time I was there. Well, because when I wasn't having an awesome time with her, I was out with other people.
Gotcha.
That's all I'm saying. Don't you start a fight with me and my mama. She'll whoop your ass. 75. She's got 2 new hips. She can do it.
She outlived Dusty. So there you go.
Yeah, well, there you go. But it's one of those things where, like, every time I said goodbye to my family, even if I didn't know if I was going to get a chance to see him again before I left, I told them I love them. And because I want them to know, I don't want to miss that opportunity for them to not know. And if they piss me off, I love you, but you fucking pissed me off. I'm blunt, I'm honest, but I'm at that point where I've been like that for a while. You don't want to miss that opportunity. So absolutely, Jeffrey, thanks for your chiming in. You're absolutely 100% right.
Old man McGee over here, get off my fucking lawn.
God damn it. Sons of bitches. You sons of bitches.
All right. Well, let's go around the horn here. Beth, we'll start with you. Then we'll go to McGee. And then I'll do the last one. Top 5 ZZ Top songs. What are your top 5?
Oh, that is hard. I'd say at number 5, Heard It on the X is my number 5.
Okay.
Oh, do you want me to go through all, or should we go?
Yeah, do all 5.
Do all 5. Do all 5.
I would have to say after that, Pearl Necklace. I like that song. I'm sorry.
That like the pearl necklace. That's what Dino was thinking.
It's a really good tune.
Yeah.
I thought it was all about a nice necklace someone was going to give someone else.
That's what it was about.
Cdc teach you nothing, young lady.
When I was very young, I heard that song. So I was like, oh, that's sweet of him.
Parenting
I'm sure
done
his girlfriend's really happy about that.
All right, so that's number 4.
Okay,
number
so
3.
I would say Tube Snake Boogie after that.
That's about a tube snake.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say after that, tush, and then cheap sunglasses.
Okay, that
Number
sounded
one.
like that was 12 list.
Yeah. All right. Go, McGee.
All right. So, and it's in no particular order because those who have been paying attention know my proclivities change on a whim.
Right.
Under Pressure, because she likes cocaine. She also likes Great Danes. That line has messed me up since I was 13. So Under Pressure, Just Got Paid. Heard It on the X is a great one. Tush, and I'd have to go with LaGrange.
That's true too.
Like, it's as much as I love the videos for the 80s tunes, it's that classic stuff that just kind of, all right, let's go. Like, it just makes you, it calms you and makes you feel that much cooler when LaGrange starts playing. That groove is just awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, McGee, besides Under Pressure, Got Me Under Pressure, none of you kind of did any of the Eliminator and After songs, because you're No Sharp Dressed Man, No Legs.
That's true.
Well,
like
I said, I love those videos.
Right.
Like if the video was playing, I could sit through it till the end. But when it comes to it, I love that dirty, groovy, like the whole reason why I like Under Pressure is it's got an amazing riff, but that exact line.
Now, going back to
it's great.
Going back to Legs, though, I don't know if you guys ever noticed. In the song, they say she got leg. They don't add the S. You don't hear the S when they say that. Have you ever noticed that?
No, now it's.
I always sing Legs. Bananas. I always sing Legs.
Well, and it's funny because on my rewatch of old WWF wrestling from the early 2000s and such, there was a young lady by the name of Stacy Keibler. I believe she dated George Clooney for a while. But one of the useless pieces of information that I have in my head is that she's got 42.5-inch legs. Kid Rock actually covered the song for her theme song, her entrance music. And it's so, like, I've been hearing it a lot because she's a big part of this particular era. But it's just one of those things. And it's like, now I'm going to be going crazy listening to see if Kid Rock said the S when they didn't. So thanks, Beth. I needed one more thing to be obsessive about. Appreciate it.
All right. So I'm going to do mine here. I'm going to throw Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think I got to get Tush in there. That's 4. 3, I would have to say I'm gonna go Give Me All Your Lovin'.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, that was the first of the newer, if we would call it that, the mass appeal ZZ Top.
Yeah.
Did I do LaGrange already?
Nope.
All right, LaGrange. And then my number one, and I love doing this because it's a combo. I like combos. Waiting on the Bus / Jesus Left Chicago. Totally bluesy.
A natural twofer.
A natural. Yes, exactly.
always got to get a cheat in there.
I know.
Always getting that cheat in there.
Here's
the top 5 list, but there's 10 of them.
Hey, I'm playing this against the system here. I got to beat the system. Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing that. We just need to have lists, and I'll just throw things like, the 2112, so that I can have 16 different parts of a song.
Yeah. We Will Rock You. We Are the Champions. Counts as one. Yeah.
Living, Loving, Made, and Heartbreaker.
Yep.
And,
totally.
Big old.
That is
cheater.
Legal. That is
big
illegal.
Old cheater.
Yeah.
But there are 2 different tracks on the last one that I gave an example for. There are 2 different tracks, and on the cassette, funny enough, they were not back to back.
Aha. Well, there you go. On the cassette.
So there you go.
On the cassette. Yeah. Well, cassettes were the poor man's album.
But the funny thing is that the cassette is set up the same way as the album, which means that you would have to flip Heartbreaker in order to play Livin' Lovin' Made.
That was the thing, because I remember, I think the first Van Halen album if you got the cassette, the songs are out of order than they were on the album. So it was just because it was a time thing. And that was kind of a staple that would happen back in those days, just to make sure everything was even, or they didn't use up, they didn't overuse tape. They really wanted to maximize it. It was all about units and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but depending on the version that you had, I guess that could be an issue. Switching the tape.
But cassettes were just so annoying back in the day because they wouldn't last long. You would have to get your pencil out to fix them. Ugh, what a pain.
It's funny because I recently, and I feel bad because I can't remember off the top of my head who it was with, but talking about the skill of being able to find the groove that's going to start the brand new song. And I remember in broadcasting school having to, learning how to spin, how to do the slip cue and stuff like that. But with a cassette tape in the car, boom, I knew exactly how long I had to fast forward to be able to get to track number 2, especially with like Nirvana's Nevermind, because I hated Smells Like Teen Spirit so much. Well, because it was getting played constantly. So every radio station was playing it. So I said, I want to listen to the rest of the album when it's on my cassette. So I would be able to just zip through it after,
I think that happened to ZZ Top, because I think that's a reason that we don't have a lot of the quote unquote, after Eliminator songs on our list, is because those songs got really played out because every format was playing it back then. There was a rock version of the rock stations were playing at the top 40 station, even the dance station. There were, I remember in the DJs, the club DJs, and this is the 90s. So I would look through the stacks of the club that I used to work at, and they had like a 12-inch ZZ Top dance remix of Legs and all these other songs from that time period. So that every type of format, those songs were played out at that time. So I think that kind of contributed to some of the later stages, especially like the 90s. By the time we got to the late 80s and early 90s, people like they knew the ZZ Top gimmick, I guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were, it's not like they're kind of like AC/DC. They weren't reinventing the wheel by any stretch of the imagination. So they did a little bit of like production sheen, and maybe it sounded just a little bit different, but it was basically the same. The videos were the same. It was the guys doing some kind of choreography and, some hot girls.
They were always in the background. Right. They were always in the background of their video. They weren't the stars of the video. They were telling the story through the video. Well, and they just happened to be standing next to the gas pump, spinning their guitars.
Right. Like, one of their trippiest videos.
Drummer in between the two, you got like Billy in front of one pump, you got Dusty in front of the other pump, and Frank's in the middle of the pump playing the guitar. I'm like, yeah, I see that every time I drive through Texas.
Right. One of their
trippiest for the gas pumps.
One of their trippiest videos from that time period, though, is TV Dinners. Remember that one? That was a trippy ass video. Was this guy?
Don't.
Yeah, watch. Well, it didn't have the girls in it. That was the one video from that time period that didn't have the girls in it. So.
That's why I don't remember it.
Yeah, check it out. It's on YouTube. All right, so let's move along to the next category regarding ZZ Top. Take it or leave it. I guess let's talk about the car and the girls and those videos. Do you take that or do you leave that? Do you think that it overexposed them at that point, and then kind of?
I love
everything they did. I
would not have changed a single thing. And as a matter of fact, I mean, like I remember at one point, didn't they have like a sponsorship with Budweiser?
They did.
And part of the gimmick was that they came on stage in the car.
Right.
Like they had the red Eliminator car. Mm-hmm. And so like it's the same as imagine Judas Priest without Rob Halford coming in on a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. Like it's those gimmicks, that made part of the show. They weren't Kiss with shit blowing up all over the place. Those little things are what made the band that much cooler and that much better than any of their contemporaries. I don't want to see Dusty when he just freshly shaven. Don't ever want to see what they look like without a beard.
Well, and
At
then
the same time, I don't want to see Frank Beard with a beard.
Yeah. Well,
he needs to have his mustache.
Also, the beard and the glasses, there's some mystery to them, which I loved. And I love the fact that, okay, so for a lot of bands, the reason they really hit it big is because you hear about their personal life. It gets out there to the public and they're like, oh, like David Lee Roth, like all the craziness he did in his personal life, it got out to the public and made them even bigger, right?
Right.
But with ZZ Top, really, you don't know much about their personal life. They kept that very close to their,
personal, like it's supposed to be.
And I love that. And so it's like, you love them for what, their talent. You're not loving them for their party lifestyle and all the craziness. You love them for what they're delivering on stage.
And part of the image, that was kind of, cemented with the videos. And the fact that it wasn't over the top like Kiss, it was very simple. It's a car, it's the little thing that they did. I don't know what you call this. Yeah. It was easy. It wasn't over the top. But it fit what they did, and they could use it as much as they wanted, but they didn't seem like they overused it.
And other thing is, I need to mention something really quick. They're really down to earth. Like last time they were here in town, they're so nice. They're down to earth. Like they're just regular guys. They'll sit with you and
they used to love to come to Tucson. I mean, even pre-Eliminator days, there was like legendary stories of ZZ Top partying in Tucson. There's an area of Speedway at Alvernon, between Alvernon and Country Club, I guess, that area there. Even before Dodge, I think is before Country Club, but that used to be like kind of the dirty side of town. It had a lot of adult theaters and strip clubs,
and the Bashful Bandit.
The Bashful Bandit was there. They used to be, I guess, apparently legend has it that there used to be a lot of these hole in the wall bars used to be there too. There's a place called the Poco Loco or the Poco Loco Lounge or something like that. And they jumped on stage there one night when they were here for a show at the TCC. And then they were just out having fun with the Bashful Bandit and all those places. But then they made it down to the Poco Loco or whatever the place was called. And they jumped on stage. And for years they were known, Beth, you may know this, being a former KLPX employee, or I guess still KLPX employee, I guess, technically. But they were known as the house band. Yeah, they used to call them the house band. Every time they played a ZZ Top song, it was the house band. That's the house band. So and I mean,
getting back to like what Beth said in terms of being down to earth and just kind of keeping their personal lives really kind of quiet. But like when I said, you'd always see them at WWF events or WWE events, and they would be surrounded by grandkids. Like you could see, like it's all little kids around them. And I mean, like they already looked like grandpas from, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So it was just neat because now they actually were what they looked like. So you'd see them in the front row, and there's Dusty and Billy, and there's like 10 like little kids between them. And they have to do the long shot from the angle just so that they can be able to like get the whole crew in, and they're just kind of, and they do the wave, or they would do like, they had spots backstage. Like I saw Jericho posted, I guess they used to have guest hosts when they had guest hosts a couple of years back. And so like they were the guest general managers, and Jericho losing his mind because Dusty and Billy are forcing him into a match against Mark Henry, who's like 3 times the size of Jericho. So it was funny, and their back and forth was just priceless, very dry and just funny. So yeah, they seemed like they were the kind of guys that if you saw them down at the end of the bar and you were cool, where you can go, oh my God.
You could be like having a drink. Hey, let me buy you a drink and hang out.
You're Dusty. That they would sit there and go, come on, get this guy what we're drinking, give him a shot. And would just sit there and have a drink, shoot the shit, and watch the baseball game with you, like they were just cool dudes. And so I
have a feeling that it would get weird partying with Dusty or Billy or Frank. I think it would just go down some serious roads. Like, so there'd be some peyote involved. I mean, there'd be motorcycle gangs. It would get really weird really quick.
Well, then it just breaks my heart that they never stopped into the Loudhouse, because believe me when I tell you, they would have had the stage, and we're always ready for things to get a little weird.
Right.
So, it's one of those things where, like, it's like I always said, I dreamed when I lived in New York City, I just wished that I was going to walk into a bar and bump into Sebastian Bach so that I could go and have my crazy, adventure. And if I live, I live. If I die, I die. That's kind of how I probably would have been even at 40, like still going with, like, I get to party with ZZ Top. Fuck it. I guess I'm coming out of retirement. Let's do this.
I think that's the thing, though. I mean, losing him, it brings out the realization that we're losing some of the greats, and we don't have many bands that can replace these people,
Yeah, well, it's a different dynamic now. The way that even in the 90s, you started to see the shift away from bands to solo performers to less album oriented type artists. It was more about the singles. It was more about it was more of a production. ZZ Top, yes, it was a production to see a ZZ Top show, but really, if none of the lights worked or whatever, it was still going to be an awesome show. It wasn't going to change much. Yeah, exactly.
You're still going to rock your face off. It's just, they're also the part of the problem, and why we get so disappointed and sad, at least I think, is because there's no iconic bands behind them to fill in that void.
Yeah.
We, like, especially from, our bread and butter in the 90s, our real coming of age. And I know,
you have
Tito,
are the
you got
Foo
a little
Fighters.
bit ahead. So
Foo
you've got, like,
Fighters and Metallica.
Right.
Oh,
and we don't have the bands that are going to be able to fill in like that. The Aerosmiths, the ZZ Tops, the AC/DCs.
Yeah. I mean,
we don't have those big over the top iconic bands.
There's like no more mass appeal bands that
right. They're still very niche.
Yeah.
Even Foo Fighters, they're not a ZZ Top. My mom can dig on ZZ Top the same way that I can dig on ZZ Top. It's not so overly, it's not so boxed. It's just rock and roll. It's just straight up rock and blues based rock and roll.
Yeah, everybody can even if you're someone who is of Billy Gibbons or Dusty Hill's age, or like even my dad 10 years older, you hear the how well, that's kind of fun. Who isn't like that?
Like you mentioned, they have the truest. There's very few bands that have the crossover mass appeal that they are so palatable by almost anybody, like a ZZ Top, like even like it crosses ethnic races. It crosses age gaps. It crosses genders. Like you can find an old black man listening to ZZ Top the same way you can find a young white girl listening to ZZ Top. Like, there's so much crossover mass appeal that somebody can always find something that they like, because, like, for that older era, black, white, or indifferent, they like that old blues-based rock and roll. They want it to sound a little bit that it can play it right behind Buddy Guy. Like I saw that Buddy Guy is going to be playing here like the weekend of my birthday. And I'm like, I might have to go see Buddy Guy at the Rialto. Like, that's going to be a killer show, and, he could open for ZZ Top or vice versa. It's and so you've got three different groups of people that can dig on that show, that you would go, these three people don't belong in this show at the same time, but they do. It's that crossover. And there's another three or four people behind them that probably shouldn't be in there either, but they're kind of going, yeah, I can dig on that. Like they're universally acceptable.
I think, I don't know if you saw this, Journey's getting ready to play the Lollapalooza this weekend.
Nice.
So I mean, that's kind of like they're like in the middle.
Sounds so weird.
Yeah, but they're
Journey's
they're
playing Lollapalooza.
I know, but they're like a middle of the day band, and how awesome would it have been to see ZZ Top like just in the middle of some big festival like the
Cheap
Coachella?
Trick was on.
Yeah.
Cheap Trick did Lollapalooza.
Okay.
And that seemed weird that they were in that grouping. And like bands like ZZ Top and Cheap Trick, they are, like what I refer to as the state fair bands. It's not a dig. It's just that they would play every state fair because they would.
ZZ Top, no, they could fill up more than just state fair. I mean,
no, I'm not saying that they couldn't. But what I'm saying is they were the guys that they never didn't play the New York State Fair. They played it every single year, whether they were an opening act for, say, like Aerosmith at the Grandstand, or whether they were doing the Chevy Court, which is a free show. Every year they were playing. So it's not a dig.
State fairs are different than county fairs, Beth. So don't get that. Yeah. So like, the state fair up in Phoenix, I mean, they have big names. I mean, Nirvana kicked off their tour there. Judas Priest has played so that's a different than playing. Cult. Yeah. The Cult. Yeah, exactly. So don't think of like them playing the Pima County Fair. Okay. Yeah, although they could, but I don't think they would. I think that's kind of a step down for what they would normally do.
But at the same time, ZZ Top doing the Pima County Fair would be a sellout.
Oh yeah,
in this market, they would get 10,000, 15,000 people minimum.
I was surprised REO Speedwagon was a Pima County Fair band. I would have never expected that.
Right?
No, I can totally believe that. No, it's no dig. They're just that one tier down. Same thing with like Night Ranger. Same thing with Dokken.
Not my Night Ranger.
It is what it is. There's no offense intended. The fact that you can still play in front of 10,000 people, even if it is at a county fair, what's that to shake a stick at? You're getting paid.
But I would only see Dokken on like the second stage of the Pima County Fair. That's not main stage. Budweiser's main stage at all.
And he wasn't main stage. He wasn't.
I think they did the same thing to Sebastian Bach too. I think he was pissed about it too.
Well, I found out, it's a little funny story. I found out from my uncle, who's a pilot, that, and I won't say what company he works for, but he actually flies with Don Dokken's son, because he's like, I flew with him 3 times, then finally turned and I said, there was a band in the 80s called Dokken. He's like, yes, I am very well aware of that. Yes. Like, that's my dad.
I've actually heard Don talk about his son being a pilot. So that rings true. That is a real story. His son is definitely a pilot.
I kind of found it funny when my uncle told me. I was like, no way. That's kind of cool. He's like, yep.
And Beth, I know you got to get out of here in just a few minutes. So let's talk, just give me, your experience at a ZZ Top show. How many times did you see ZZ Top, and what do you remember most of the show?
I've seen them quite a few times. I would say at least 7 times.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, one of my favorite shows obviously was when they were at Ava, because of my, backstage encounter when Billy Gibbons dropped the spoon on the ground after getting the mashed potatoes, and I was next to get my mashed potatoes, and he's like, "Oh, 5-minute rule. It's so good." 5-second rule, and I'm like, I can't believe. And I just went with it. I'm like, if I get sick, I can say, ZZ Top helped me get sick.
Billy Gibbons killed me. That's why I've got diphtheria.
How about you, McGee? How many times did you see ZZ Top?
Honestly, however many times I went to the New York State Fair. Okay. And I mean, and it was one of those things that, like, I remember seeing them at Chevy Court. It might have been, because I was little. So it might have been before Eliminator or right as Eliminator was kind of making it big. But I remember seeing them when I was little. And it was one of those things where I'm still holding mom's hand or uncle's hand or whoever I went with. So it was just kind of in passing that I heard them as they were playing. And then as a teenager, it's one of those things that if we went and in my early 20s, if we went to the fair, more than likely we were going to kind of make it coincide with either Joan Jett or ZZ Top, because they were always playing. And it was one of those things where you just you sit there, you drink your beer, you have your hot dog. I watch them spin the guitars and they do the thing, and I go, okay. And then we move on to the next thing, and that's it. So I hate to admit it, but I'm one of the guys that kind of took them for granted, because they were always going to be there next year. or the year after that. Like the
Sure.
chances of ZZ Top not being there back-to-back years was slim, but you know, I'm lucky enough that I got to see him for free multiple times, and you know, and it always great background music, always a great, just makes you smile. Like you're never going to be disappointed when you get to hear ZZ Top play live.
I only saw them once. I saw them, I want to say 1991-ish, 90-ish. They played at the McHale Center. So they didn't really do a lot of concerts there. I only saw a couple. I think only like Van Halen and Def Leppard really played the McHale Center for big shows. Because it's mostly the basketball arena. And their opening act was a young upstart band by the name of Extreme, who had this big hit at the time. More Than Words. So, but it was a great show. I mean, they did all the stuff, and they had like a little treadmill type thing, so that when they did the walking in place stuff, they were moving.
Oh, that's cool.
But they were like standing, and then they would do it, and they would like stop the music, and then they would the treadmill would go, and they would slide.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they were great. I mean, I have no complaints about the show. It was exactly what I thought it was, and they delivered. I mean, I don't think anybody could say ZZ Top they were bad. Yeah, they didn't put on a good show. They didn't, and, they didn't do what they were supposed to.
But again, it's one of those things that it's the cool show. Like the fact that they had that treadmill to be able to do that slide.
Right.
Like to me, that's cooler than watching Kiss blow up the stage.
Right. It's subtle, but it works. It wasn't over the top, but it works. And yeah, that's that. I think that was kind of their key. They had their little lane, and they knew when to use it. They were very liberal as far as doing those things, but they never overdid it.
Right.
I think, like I said, the one thing when they were a little overexposed, that you really couldn't fault them for that. That was just the music business. Videos were played on MTV. They were really, that was that was their thing at the time. So they had to do those things, but I don't think it was they never really milked it too much. I think it was the appropriate amount. All right.
They made it perfect.
Yeah. If you had to pick a ZZ Top album for yourself on a desert island, what would it be?
ZZ Top's greatest hits.
All right.
Because then I get it all. I get all my songs.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I might go, obviously you got to go with Eliminator, I think, as one of them. Or you have to go with something maybe like Tejas, like it's got Driving While Blind on it, or El Loco, Tube Snake Boogie, Pearl Necklace, some of your favorites. But I think if you had an essential ZZ Top album, I guess if it was not a greatest hits album, I think it would have to probably be Eliminator.
Yeah, I mean that's their biggest.
Yeah, that's
their biggest hit. Yeah, that's their coming of age. That's their we finally made it, and the multi-platinum album, because everybody's bought it, and everybody who truly loves it has bought it twice.
All right, we'll wrap up with this. Who is the most valuable person, the MVP in ZZ Top? Or is there one?
I mean, come on. We all have to say Dusty Hill. Come on. That'd be horrible if we didn't.
Honestly,
yeah.
They are truly the tripod.
Yeah. I think so. It's kind of like Rush.
Not the same without any of them.
Yeah.
See, with Rush, it was a little bit different because it was like, we write the music, you write the lyrics, and then we're all virtuosos in our own little right. But at the same time, like with ZZ Top, it's just one of those things that, like I've said 100 times, I can't imagine that band without any of the members. So it's going to be a tough thing to see.
But you guys said with Rush, of course, Rush can't continue on without Neil, because Neil writes, all the songs pretty much. With ZZ Top, I mean, you said they're equally needed. So are you saying that with Rush, like let's say Alex had passed away or Geddy had passed away, do you think they could have continued on? Okay.
Not at all. That's the thing, is that there's certain bands, it doesn't matter how many members are.
Okay.
If there's one particular guy that it just fit, like we've had this discussion with Led Zeppelin. The one difference is they have his successor in Jason Bonham, his son, who now that he's of age could fill those shoes, because he is at that level. He has trained his entire life to be able to play every single beat that his father played.
Yeah.
So he could go in and fill in. But when it comes to that core, I can't imagine either of those bands. Yeah. You know, like we've seen the Rolling Stones replace 4 guitar players. We've seen the Rolling Stones replace the bass player. It's not as big of a deal. We got used to it at such an early age that it's not even surprising. But like the Beatles without all 4 members is not the Beatles.
Right.
You know, Aerosmith is one that, you know, Joe Perry left the band for a minute. Joey left the band for a minute.
And they've had
might be able to get away with it, but at the same time, without Steven and Joe. Actually,
they tried to continue on without Steven. It didn't work out, but they thought about it when Steven Tyler was taking over on American Idol. They thought about touring without him.
Yep.
And you know what? I don't want to see Aerosmith without everybody. Yeah. Even Tom Hamilton is still just a key enough player, and because he's been there since the beginning, I don't want to see somebody else playing bass. Yeah. Could I? Would it make that much of a difference? Maybe not.
Yeah, I think like Tom Hamilton, like if you had the choice, if he's alive with or without him, and he's capable with or without him. But I don't think if Tom Hamilton passed away tomorrow and they got another bass player because you had 4 other guys who were still ready to go out there, I could continue. Yeah. They could continue. Now ZZ Top's different. I think Rush is different too, because, you know, it's only 3. So it's very important. Each person has more responsibility. For Rush, it's more important, I think, because especially Neil Peart, because he was like, whenever you say Rush, that's what all people think of. Yeah, that's all you think. I mean, Geddy Lee's got his signature. I think they couldn't continue without Geddy Lee. I think the only one that they could really continue on with is Alex, but even he's very, very important. With ZZ Top, I expect that I respect that they could go on without Dusty, as long as Dusty obviously said for them to do that, because I don't want to begrudge what Dusty did, because he held down the bottom end, the low end. That was what he was known for, and he did a great job. And if you really listen to the bass lines in those early ZZ Top songs, even the latter ZZ Top songs, it's awesome if you just focus on those things. And his vocals going back and forth with Dusty on some songs, sometimes where he's the main lead singer, it's unique and it's different, but they're not, I guess, the way like Geddy Lee plays or the way that Neil plays drums, it's so specific.
Yeah.
Right.
With him, I think that you could get with Dusty, especially since it was his wish to go on. I think you could get away at least for a little while. I don't think they should do anything outside of maybe wrapping it up, you know, with this current tour, or maybe like a big send off. But
right.
Rest in peace, Dusty Hill.
My last 2 cents. I also feel it's a little bit different when a member of a band dies compares to just saying, I want to retire.
Right.
You know, it's like continuing on with somebody when somebody just kind of goes like Bill Wyman just kind of said, I'm done. Right. I don't want to do it anymore. So they throw somebody else
or
in.
Leaves on bad terms.
Or leaves on bad terms, whatever the situation is, comparative to somebody that has been consistent passing away.
Yeah.
And on that note, kids.
Yeah. Sad note.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to bolt soon too, because I'm on the phone until the computer comes, and I just hit low power mode. So
that's the end of Rock and Roll 101.
But at least today. I didn't get booted. I made it through a whole show without getting booted. Woo-hoo!
Dusty Hill was watching over you.
Thank you, Dusty. Thank you, Dusty, baby. I know it's a different Dusty, but I figured I might as well at least do the one that I can imitate.
Yeah. All right. Well, and if you get a chance to watch the Dusty Hill, Hank Hill episode of King of the Hill, do so.
Spinning Bobby.
I think there were a couple episodes that he showed up in, or was it just one?
I honestly would have to go back to remember.
Yeah, I think there were a couple episodes where they brought that back.
Also, you have to watch their documentary on Netflix.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys had a chance.
I think I saw that a long time ago. It's very good. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
And if you go to YouTube, watch that 1980 show on MTV.
Yeah.
Cool.
It'll blow your mind. Blow your mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
So ZZ Top, that little band from Texas on Netflix. You should see it tonight.
Yeah.
Yep. And just remember, everybody, we'll be back here tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 5:30 p.m. Tucson time. So adjust your clocks accordingly. Please like, share all of our individual pages. We finally got it going on the Loudhouse page again.
Yeah.
But check out Dino Radio Show, Beth Simmons, and the McGee pages. We also have a YouTube page, the Loudhouse Podcast Network. Beth, I am so impressed. Thank you for being so diligent. There is a ton of video up there.
Yep.
I'll go in and put all the hashtags and fun stuff in soon. But thank you for keeping up and carrying some weight there, kiddo. I appreciate it.
And I'll be loading tonight's show up there shortly.
Awesome.
Yes.
So please like, share, subscribe, help us get our numbers up so that we can maybe monetize this and be able to eat for the next 6 months. All right, Dino, hit them.
All right. And I will see maybe some of you tonight at Encore for the Tommy Vex and Brace Yourself show. I think doors are at 7 and show starting around 8. So I hope to see some of you out there. I won't be here tomorrow. Did I tell you that, guys? I won't be here tomorrow. Oh.
Okay.
Well,
you guys will have to soldier on without me.
Okay.
But
figure it out.
Yeah, we all know what you're saying. How can you miss us if we never go away? Good night.
Peace.
Yeah.